Hi, everyone. My name is Eric D'Souza, and joining me today is Brenda Chapman as we continue to discuss or having conversations with the contributors to Cold Canadian Crime. For those of you who don't know, Brenda Chapman is a Canadian crime fiction author with over 20 published novels. In addition to short stories and standalones, she has written the lauded Stonechild and Rouleau police procedural series, the Anna Sweet mystery novellas, and the Jennifer Bannon mysteries for middle grade. Her work has been shortlisted for several awards, including 4 Crime Writers of Canada's Award of Excellence. Hi, Brenda. How are you today?
Great. How are you, Eric?
Oh, I'm good too. I know your bio says short stories, but I know you for novels. Obviously, you must have written a few other short stories, but what brings you back to that genre? Or
Well,
not genre, but format, sorry.
to that format. Well, when I heard that there was, it was Crime Writers of Canada's 40th anniversary, and they were going to put together this anthology, I thought, boy, I'd really like to be in that. And that's what sparked me to write another story. I've always loved writing short stories, but you get engrossed in writing a novel, and it takes up so much energy and time that I really haven't gotten back to them. So this was just felt like the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad you took it because I have to admit, I had the same sort of desire, like, oh, I should submit that, but it's like I haven't written a short story. I can't remember when. It's such a different mind frame, right? Writing.
Yeah, they're very tricky. I mean, a lot has to go into a short story to make it good, and people might not realize just how difficult they are to write. You have to encapsulate a whole um, world develop your characters and have a snappy plot within 3,000 words. It's tricky.
I agree. It's definitely tricky. The final hit, your contribution, and the last story in the novel or in the anthology.
Mhm.
I had to do some detective work of my own because I just assumed you were writing about Ottawa. And you mentioned a couple of landmarks, and then I was like, I'm going to look them up just in case I'm wrong. For those who don't know, I'm in the West, so I don't know all these landmarks. But I was like, hey, you're not in Ottawa, so I don't even know what region it is. But I guess the Niagara region.
The Niagara. Yeah, I'm down in St. Catharines, and we go there every couple of years to visit friends that have moved down there and do a bit of wine touring. And we were down there a few summers ago and went for a walk through these woods with the Welland Canal off to the right, and we ended up in this beautiful Sunset Beach. And I thought, wow, these woods would be a great place to have a murder, a body. But so I kind of started with that when I started writing the story, but a body doesn't end up in those woods, but they do appear in the story.
Uh, is that the reason why you took your story? Like typically you write about Ottawa. You've written about
Mhm.
Ottawa a lot. Is that the only reason why you didn't want to write about Ottawa? Also, I mean, the guy's, I don't think it's a spoiler too much, but because you say it early on, he's a hitman. Is it just because, well, hitmans can't live in Ottawa?
No, it was just an idea percolating in my head that I would like to have St. Catharines as a setting. And yeah, it's a working class town. It's had a lot of strife with businesses closing and factories closing, and so it's really been a bit run down, but it's also coming back. Like it's got some renovations going on, and the downtown's being rejuvenated. And I just thought, this could be a good place for a hitman.
um, I wanted to read you a little bit of the foreword of Cold Canadian Crime by William uh, Deverell.
Definitely.
He said, basically, the little bit he talked about sort of the early days of crime writers in Canada, and he mentions essentially that it was an all boys club. So, admittedly, one could sense an all boys clubbiness here, but the CWC has enriched itself by a tsunami of talented women. And then he goes on to say, like, of the 21 contributors, there's only one male in this. So, what do you think? There's a causes this tsunami, or do you think it's real? Is he right? Is there just a lot of really talented women writers in Canada right now?
I think he could be right, and we've been kind of led by women like Gail Bowen, who've really cut a path for the rest of us to write crime. And I think just there are a lot of talented women right across the country. I've read so many great women writers, and I'm not denigrating the male writers, because I think there's also some really great men writers. But maybe we're just kind of finding our place in the crime writing world. I'd like to think so.
Yeah, and William does mention also that it was blind judging. So of all
Mhm.
the people that submitted stories to this anthology, the people who actually made the decisions of who gets in, and I believe there were about 75 stories, so there was a fair amount in the
Mhm.
pool. Had no clue if it was a male or a female writing it, and considering
That's right.
20 of the 21 were female writers, there's definitely something going on.
Yeah, and I think they're also finding women can write gritty stuff too. They might not have thought that initially, but
It's true, because yeah, can I imagine too that you often think like women write cozies. It's
yeah,
just that's what they do. But
stereotyping. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas I write cozies and you write police procedurals mostly. So
yeah, a little grittier. Yeah, that's odd, eh?
um I know we mostly talked about your this short story, but let's talk about Blind Date a little bit. It's sort of well, it's a new series after doing
Mhm.
such a what did you call it? A lauded, and I agree, a lauded series in Stonechild and Rouleau. It's very different. So where did you find the inspiration to do something completely, not completely different, but it's not a police procedural. It's different. It's different from what you've done before.
Yeah, it's kind of a melange. There's some police procedural elements, but it's
Yeah.
also an amateur sleuth kind of scenario. I'd finished up with the Stone Child series. And of course, you're thinking of what can I do next? And I really did like that series, the police procedural kind of leanings. Uh, but I also wanted to have a different combination of main characters, so not just two cops. So um, Ella Tate, one of the main characters, is a reporter who got laid off from the paper, and she starts a podcast, which I thought was a bit of a hook. It was a bit different, and that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm about the 25% mark of the book. I'll have it done by November 15th, where we have a longer discussion about it. Um,
Okay.
but so far, there's only been one chapter with with Hunter,
Mhm.
so it does seem to be quite really the
What I what I
out of the
love ab
gate.
what I love about a series is you can introduce characters and they don't seem to have a very big role, and then by the next book they could become the focus. So that's kind of how I do it. So I'm writing the third in the series. The second will be out April 1st. And there's a character in there that I'm thinking, I think she could have a much bigger role. And she was only kind of introduced in book two. So yeah, they're fun to write.
Yeah, and it even goes back again to that debate between like we're not only novel writers, we're series writers.
Mhm.
So to think 3,000 words versus like 10 novels,
Yeah,
it's such a
endless
different
number
way
of
to think of
words.
it.
Yeah, yeah, that story arc that goes on for thousands and thousands of words. Yeah.
Yes. Um, so as I mentioned really quickly, November 15th, we're having our last Crime Writers of Canada webinar for 2022, and it's going to be an honor to have you as a guest for that.
Thank you.
Um, I'm reading your books. I'm enjoying your new series, and we'll talk more about that next week.
Mhm.
But other than that, do you have any other events coming up?
Boy, oh, well, the Capital Crime Writers, our local crime writing group, is having me for their Christmas dinner as their guest speaker. And there's also the Maple Leaf um, Mystery Conference, which is Saturday, December 3rd, and it's open to the public. It'll be virtual. And I'm on the police procedural panel with Jim Napier and Mike
I can't.
Mike
Can't.
Kent as well. Yeah, yeah. So that should be a lot of fun. It's an all-day kind of conference, different panels. I know that Rick Mafina, Bart Fradkin, Mary Jane Maffini, Vicky Delaney are all going to be taking part. So it's just a great lineup of authors.
Yeah, we've had a or a longer discussion about this before, but this is going to be very Ottawa focused. They're not
Yeah,
strictly Ottawa. Vicky Delaney is not Ottawa, but Ontario. So
Eastern Ontario.
it's quite remarkable actually that there's so many great writers, even just in the Ottawa region.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate when I started my writing career to have, my mentors, Mary Jane Maffini, I consider a real mentor. all these great women. I also really like Rick Mafina. We've been good buddies. We actually worked together for a while at Health Canada. So yeah, it's just been a hotbed. They say there's something in the water. I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but
There might be. All
yeah.
right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more next week, but thank you very much for joining me today to talk about cold Canadian crime. It's about the right time of year that people should be thinking about gifts for each other. So I
Yeah.
hope
Well,
people consider that.
thanks so much, Eric. It's always fun to talk with you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
See you next week. And to everyone watching, thank you for watching.